Hey, okay, so let's jump into how do I know what property to invest in? Is it fix and flips? Is it multifamily? Is it self-storage? Is it non-performing notes? Is it wholesaling deals? Is it parking garages? Is it like a passive investment where you're buying notes, or you're buying into syndications and private placement memorandums? These are all really popular types of investments right now. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of people that have gone to a seminar, me included, that have done a lot of different types of things, and they've expanded, or they've gone to this, seminar, and they've learned, oh, I love the idea of investing in mobile home parks. And I think that the challenge for many people, and maybe you're going to find yourself included in this list, but there are so many people that say, I want to do that, and that's about it. They don't calculate some of the non-financial costs. They don't talk about the time commitment. They don't talk about what happens if they lose all their money. They don't talk about the wrong partners. And we get into some situations, we find ourselves in these situations where, because we haven't thought through some of these challenges with the very focused, detailed thought process of the what ifs and what happens if, that we find ourselves sometimes in jeopardy of losing our time or our money. And sometimes we lose our clients' money. We have investors, and we've never done a 150 unit apartment building or a development project, let's say, and we've trusted the people in the project that have said that they're going to perform on X, Y, and Z, and they don't even know how to do A, B, and C, if that makes sense. And so we have to really step back from, I want to be a blank investor, you fill in the blank, with, I've done my due diligence, I've thought through the risks, I've thought through the potholes, or sometimes sinkholes, and I now understand why I want to do this type of investment, this particular sector. And again, I've given the example of, a surgeon doing 5 fix and flips a year, and he's pulling up, toilets on Sundays at 6 a.m. before he needs to go and do his rotation at 3 p.m. And I don't know that business model is sustainable. And there are other options for him or her to be an investor. And it's not doing the manual labor. And so what we're going to do right now with today's chat is we're going to dive into a series of questions, 20 questions that I've formulated to really help me understand where I'm going to focus my time, my energy, and my money, my partnerships. And then I'm also going to help you guys understand why these questions are going to help you understand why a particular real estate business model may not be appropriate. You're going to find out with these questions if that particular business model is appropriate for you. You may want to fix and flip 50 houses a year, but if you're a surgeon on heavy rotation, you're in your 4th year, and you want to pay off your student loans faster, so you think, yeah, I'll do some fix and flips. Maybe that might not be the best approach for your happiness and your health, and a whole host of things. So let's jump into sort of the two questions that I ask. I'm gonna talk about 5 questions up front. One is my favorite question, and that favorite question is, what's great about this? And, we can all think about the various things that are great about buying our first fix and flip. And, I've actually taken the step that 90% of the people don't take. I'm part of the 10%, and I'm in the project now. I've actually closed. I hunted for a property here and there, and, it took me all this time to actually close on a deal. And now what? Have you thought through some of the other things? Of course, you've thought through the contractor, what's the budget? But let's talk about some of these other things. You've taken the action, which is great. So what's great about this is you've taken the action. What's great about this can also be used in the context of when you're dealing with challenges and your tile guy hasn't shown up for 3 days. Okay, so what's great about having a half a tiled floor? Look, I get it. There's not much that's you can be, excited about during a situation like that. But if you ask yourself that question in those challenging moments, you're going to find out that you can come up with some answers. And my firmest belief is that these powerful questions you ask are going to help steer your life. And certainly your investing career, if you ask them at those moments that are really super frustrating, those moments where you're not sure of how you're going to unwind this or how you're going to get through this next challenge. And, what's great about a tile guy not showing up for 3 days in a row? Well, maybe he's doing really bad work because he's a meth head. And you've got to deal with, do I find a new tile guy? And now you've given him, because your contract says, if you don't show up on the job for 48 hours, you're off the job. And now you have your opening. And so what's great about that particular situation is you now have, hey, I've got proof that you didn't show up for these 3 days. You agreed to, in our contract, that you wouldn't not show up for 48 hours and I'm sorry, but you're done. And so, sure, you have to find a new tile guy, but you've already done the work because we pre-plan, backups and everything. But now the good thing is about that situation is that you have the ability to find somebody new and have the clarity and say, I know what I need more than what that other guy presented me. Maybe he was the lowest price. And as a rookie fix and flipper, you chose the cheapest price because you think that was going to be the best to meet your budget so you could be most profitable. It's not, just because somebody's the lowest price doesn't mean their quality of work is going to be good or that they're going to be reliable. Often it's not that way. So that question, what's great about this, really sees its beauty. You're going to find its worth in those dark times. And I would say that, the real exercise here is asking that question when it's toughest, because you're going to be able and say it out loud. This is what I do often when I'm driving and I say, okay, what's great about this? Or I'm out walking my dog. What is great about this? What else is great about this? Okay, so I got a new tile guy. Great. Okay, what else is great about this? Well, maybe I could clean up, get some of the yard removal guys to come and do their work, now because the tile guy's not showing up. Or, can I double check that the tile order is correct? And, I measure what we've got and make sure that we have enough there on site, or we've ordered enough. And so there's always some value as long as you're asking that type of a question. So that's my first favorite question. My second favorite question is, what don't I see? What don't I see? So when I'm creating a contract, for instance, with a tile contractor, subcontractor, I want to know what are some of the pitfalls with this agreement. So I'll finish it and I'll say, okay, so what don't I see? Or if I'm getting into a 4-park mobile home portfolio and we're putting our operating agreement together, to bring investors in. What don't I see? Okay, well, what happens if the projections that we're having a pro forma on don't pan out? Okay, what don't I see? Well, what in the disclaimers says, look, these are just projections. There's no promise here. How can I further clarify the disclaimer that we hope to attain this return by year 3, but if there's a natural disaster or there's some break in the economy and we need to extend this out, do I have enough room in my operating agreement, my disclaimers, my disclosures, to go ahead and make sure that I'm optimistic, yet I'm still covering my backside? I do a lot of that, and maybe you guys do too. So these 20 questions that I'm about to ask are based on a lot of detail on that second question. And the reason I like this is because the next 3 questions, which I learned from one of my mentors several years ago, which really stuck with me. And the first question is, what's the upside? And obviously, we're all going to get excited about this project is, in 5 years, it's going to be worth $17 million. I'm going to sell it and I'm going to walk away with $5 million in my pocket. Okay, great. Everybody can get excited about that, right? Who wouldn't want to have a $5 million payday in 3 to 5 years? I would, and I want everybody to get excited about that too. But there's another question that I think is more important. And that is question number 2 in this 3-question series. What is the downside? We've talked about the upside. The downside is more important to me than the upside. The downside is, well, it's built on 17 acres and it's on a cliff, and we've had a drought for the last 50 years, but year 2, it rains so much that the cliff falls off. And so half of the houses we were building are now, we can't use that land anymore. And so we have to adjust our projections. Okay, that stuff happens. Or the downside is, I didn't get a permit for the light fixture outside, the sconce outside of the front door. And what's the downside of not getting that permit? Well, the downside was clearly that the city came in, did an inspection, and they said, hey, you don't have a permit for that. And they slap a red tag on the front door. And that shut down the construction and the renovations on that property literally for 3 years. We didn't think of that particular downside. So when I'm getting permits, with my new contractors, I say, we need to have everything permitted. We need a general permit. We need these specific permits. And I rely on my contractor to give me some direction on those things. But ultimately, I make sure that they know what those things are we have to do so that I don't have that risk anymore. I'm not willing to put the risk on my shoulders for a property. Say I'm fixing and flipping, again, on that particular instance, I'm not willing to take the responsibility on my shoulders that I didn't think through those things, and it shut down the project for 3.5 years. And we took a $450,000 loss on it. I'm not willing to do that anymore. And I don't want you to be willing to take that loss. I want you to pre-plan the crap out of this stuff so that all of your questions are answered as much as you can before. Because more critically is this third question, and that is, can I live with the downside? Can I live with the downside? So in that instance where we had bought this flip in Orlando years ago, and we didn't get a general permit because we relied on the contractor, the GC, to get the permit. He didn't get one. He just got a tiling permit, I think a plumbing permit, but he didn't get an electrical permit. And so, we weren't really doing any electrical work. So why do we need a permit? We're just changing a sconce. You think, right? The assumption is that you don't need it for a sconce by the front door. Well, that is a major assumption. You think about it, it's a minor assumption, right? I don't need it. I don't need a permit. I'm just changing a sconce. Huge, huge assumption. It literally cost us $450,000. We lost that money because of that assumption. So can I live with the downside of that assumption? Not anymore. I refuse to. And so we have to continually ask better questions. And this is the whole purpose of what I do here, is refining the questions so that they, those 5 questions I've just asked. Again, my favorite one is, what's great about this? My second favorite question is, what don't I see? The second set of these 3 questions is, what's the upside? What's the downside? And can I live with the downside? They all set the tone for the more specific questions, which are these 20 that I'm about to jump into right now. So I want you to you're going to be able to download these questions, and you're going to be able to use this template as a jumping off point to building your list of questions. I'm going to pepper you with several hundred questions, and I want you to sit down when you're about to jump into your first fix and flip. Or if you've done 50 fix and flips and you're super confident and you're about ready to buy your first 100-unit multifamily building out of state, I want you to use these questions. And I want you to jump into just 3 to 5 of them. And I want you to sit down with no distraction. And I want you to sit there and take an actual piece of paper. Don't type this stuff out. I need this stuff to be inside of you. I need it to be real, okay? This is an exercise in feeling these questions. I know it sounds floofy, whatever, but the process really locks it into your body so that you're diligently thinking about these answers. Okay, so let's just jump into some of this stuff. So we're going to list through 20 of these questions. I'm going to read them from my sheet that you're going to have access to. And I'm going to dive into each one a little bit further once I've read through the question. Okay, so question number 1. Do I have time to invest? If not, what do I need to change or give up to be successful? Sometimes people don't even take into consideration there's a time commitment now. I don't even care if it's a passive investment where you've sent $50,000 to some guru, his multi-$100 million fund. It's still going to take you time. And that is time to read the documents. A 150-page operating agreement, I would want to go through each page diligently, because I want to understand what it is he's doing, how he's doing it, why he's doing it this particular way, because it's different from this other guy. And I think it's important to know if we're just going to wire this guy $50,000 or $100,000, we need to know what it's going for and what our expectations are being set for us. So what do I need to, budget my time for? Maybe it's that fix and flip and you're a surgeon. You need to budget 18 hours a week being on site, plus 7 hours of communication with the contractors. Okay, do you have time in your schedule? Is it actually available 25 hours? 18 here doing renovations, 9 hours on Saturday, 9 hours on Sunday. And do you have time 1 hour a day to talk to the contractor to make sure that all the steps are getting done on time within budget? Or do you need to drive over there and check the work at the end of the day and it takes an hour to do that? You need to build those things into your schedule. Time is one of the most frequently ignored challenges with investing in any type. So what do I need to change or give up to be successful? Okay, number 2, do I have some or all of the capital needed to invest? Okay, if you're fixing and flipping, do you buy the house cash? Do you have all of the money to renovate cash? Do you have all of that set aside? Or are you getting a loan? Or are you bringing in partners? You need to be super clear on that. Question number 3. If I use all of my capital, does it put me at diversification risk? Wow, I love this question. So often people say, hey, I'm gonna buy this fix and flip. I've got money over here that I sold a property and I'm just gonna sink $750,000. It's $500,000 to buy it, $250,000 to fix it up. I'll be done in 9 months, perfect, it's great. So what happens if you say, yeah, I totally have all the money and it's all of my $750,000? You've got a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old getting ready to go to college, and they're kind of counting on you because you make too much money and they can't get any student aid. And maybe they're not great students, but they still want to go to college. So, now they get student loans. Okay. I mean, you really got to budget for things that go wrong. Because if I use all my capital and you're now at a diversification risk, what happens, my third of those 3 questions, can I live with the downside? Maybe you buy this house, your first fix and flip, thinking, yeah, I'm going to make $300,000 profit on it. I'll get all my $750 back, make $300, and I'll just do it again. The challenge with that is it's wishful thinking because it's probably going to be more expensive than you're budgeting for. Probably. Maybe you're adding 50% onto your budget and it's really only, $125,000, but you're smart enough, you've listened to enough gurus to say it's going to take twice as long, going to take twice as much, and you've really pre-planned for catastrophic contractors. Okay, good. What about the time? How do you plan for that? Number 4, if I don't use all of my capital and spread it amongst several projects, does this reduce the amount of time I can spend on other things, investments, or personal goals? So let's say you got that $750,000. And what if you just say, okay, I'm gonna do, one project here, another project here, and another project here. And you're gonna take a passive approach on one, you're gonna take an active approach on another. You're partnering with somebody who's doing all the work. In terms of the time, can you now spend time on other things, or do you have more time invested than if you only had that one property or that one fix and flip? So we need to say, is there a better way for my time to go into that, those 4 different properties? Is there a better way to allocate my time for that $750,000? And again, you're going to be sitting down, you're going to be writing answers. So as an example, if I don't use all my capital and I spread it amongst several projects, does this reduce the amount of time I can spend on other things, other investments, or other personal goals? If I distribute that $750,000, and do I have time to go get my pilot's license? Do I have time to take a trip to the Greek Isles for a month and a half with my significant other, my wife, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, by myself? Do you have the time to do that instead? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It really depends on you. You need to write this down. You need to go through and you say, if I choose this type of investment, maybe it's all passive investments through syndications. You take $250,000 amongst 3 different projects, and you say, okay, so that's going to give me a preferred return of 7% a year on 700. So it's like, how much is that? And you figured that up. Okay, so I don't have to spend too much time managing that type of project. And I know that over the course of 5 years, I'm going to have my capital back and I'm going to have an equity play on that. And they're projecting a 20% annualized return. So after 5 years, it comes to this. Does that still afford me the time? Yeah, that might afford you the time to go become a pilot or go to the Greek Isles. I don't know that the initial capital return, 7%, the preferred return, is enough to sustain your lifestyle, But if you're using investing dollars, not lifestyle dollars, then you're just recycling that back into your investment portfolio anyway, and it's probably going to work out fine. But I want to write that out. I want to detail out these answers in detail. I'm going to spend 5 to 8 minutes on each of these answers or more, depending on how important this particular question is for me. So let's jump to number 5. If I don't have it all, if I don't have all of the capital, what happens if my partners or partner have problems and I need to come up with more capital? What happens? Okay, so let's write that out. I need to go to a bank. I need to go to a hard money lender. I need to go to my cousin Dave. I need to go to some other source that has excess capital for me to borrow. Okay, can I do it? I can do it. Maybe. What if the project doesn't have enough liquidity in it? Maybe it's a land deal, and you're starting to build from scratch and you're caught in the city planning department for a year, which totally happens. So what happens if I can't, what happens with my principal, my capital? How is that affected? And write that out. If I can't come up with the money, how is my principal affected? Again, this is a more clarifying question than, what's the upside, what's the downside, and can I live with the downside? We're getting into some nitty gritty on, questions number 2, the downside, and can I live with it? Number 6, do I have the experience for this? Have I ever fixed and flipped before? No. Okay. It's not problematic unless you find problems. And what's the likelihood that you're going to find problems? Am I relying on another person or organization to help me be profitable? Do they have experience? So question 6 is multi-part. Do I have the experience for this? Am I relying on another person or organization to help me be profitable? Is it a lender? Is it a hedge fund that's got $100 million and they're deploying it in certain sectors? Do they have the experience? Okay, so a hedge fund may or may not have the experience, but you need to write this stuff out. This is a great question. Do I have the experience for this? If it's your first time or if it's your 50th time, then great. If it's your 50th syndication and you decide, I want to go global, and you want to bring in a hedge fund, and they are backed by an insurance company. Let's say it's something huge, and you need $100 million, and you're taking your next step up. And so, do these people know how to help me get this thing to where it needs to be? Maybe, yeah, probably. But they're also going to carve out a lot of capital on the back end for themselves. And they're going to want to control the deal to some degree. Now, if it's your first, and you say, I'm willing to give some of that up, then it might be better for you so that the next time you do it, 2 to 3 to 5 years, you can say, hey, I've already made these relationships. I know what I'm doing. I've got the track record. And I've paid everybody off and everything went right. And so here I am again, but I'm going to cut a sweeter deal. Same thing with a hard money lender on your first fix and flip. Maybe it's no longer your first, it's now your 5th. And so that track record really helps get people excited to work with you. Question number 7. Is there a way to lose all of my money? Is there a way to recoup all of my money? If I lose it all, how will that impact my ability to invest in the future? How will it affect my lifestyle? How will it affect my family? This one is so important because people losing all of their money in real estate happens more often than we may imagine, that we're led on to believe. Certainly less frequently when the market is going up, much more frequently when the market is going down. And people lose literally everything. And, I'm recording this at some point during what I think is really the top of the market. It may have even shown some signs of starting to soften. Will it actually soften? Will it get, will there be some influx of some government thing or some treasury thing, or, is the Fed going to print more money and everybody's, hey, we've got another 3 years? I don't know. But I know that sometimes people don't properly plan for an appropriate amount of risk. So let's look at question number 8. If I am successful in this, is it luck or skill? What have I learned from the past to help me know the difference? Gosh, I want you to really think about that one. Number 9, how am I defining success for this project? Is it a specific number or is it a range? If it's a fix and flip, anything over doubling my money, sure, great. Anything over recouping my money, not a success, but it depends on, did it take 3 years longer than we thought and we ran into all these problems and yet we still made enough cash on it to break even. I think that would be successful. If it's a 3-month fix and flip and we've pulled, on a $300,000 house, we made $40,000 in 3 months, that's totally success. I need you to define specifically what success is for this project. It is sometimes a range. If I make any percentage over my invested dollars, then it works. If it's under this percentage, it's not a great win, but I still came out and I can survive to fight another day. Number 10, are there better opportunities more suited for my lifestyle / budget / experience that if I take another week or two, I could potentially find? So often people get really super excited about jumping into a project so fast because it sounds great and there's a great salesman and they're ready to jump. They've got this cash and it's burning a hole in their pocket. And look, I've got $400,000 cash sitting in my account and I'm losing money by not having it working. And yet I found this really great, what I think is a really great property, but it needs a lot of work and I'm not the lead on it. And is that really the right property for you to jump into right now? Is it the right investment? I would say, look, take a step back, breathe for a minute, ask that question. Are there better opportunities more suited for my lifestyle, my budget, and my experience? And if I take another week or maybe 2, I might come across those. I think those are really important things to consider. Number 11, is this truly the best investment for me right now? Or am I simply caught up in the excitement? I get so many projects across my email every day, and I step back from all of them, literally all of them, not just some of them, not just most of them, literally all of them. And I think, is this the right thing for my time right now? Is this the right thing for me to really invest my brain capacity on right now? Because I've got so many other things. You're probably in the same boat as me. You're probably, if you're an active investor or you've started to put feelers out for fix and flips, or you started to put your feelers out for multifamily or self-storage or mobile home parks or whatever it is, you're starting to get emails from brokers and maybe even some old business partners. And it takes a lot of time to consider them. And so I would say you really want to have a quick designed, what am I thinking? You want to have a quick way to discern whether or not this is even worth your time. A formula. Okay, if it's going to throw off this, I don't even want to look at it unless it's a 6 cap. I don't want to even, if somebody's sending me, and it happens all the time, a broker sends me a 5 cap or a 4 cap, it's just not meat for me. Those are great for certain people, that have maybe done a 1031 exchange and they need to put it into something and get it parking, park their money somewhere. But I'm not in that, I'm not in that ball game. I'm in the ball game of I need a deal on a property and I need to come into it and I want to turn it around to some degree. I want to be a better manager. I want to, put property, people or homes into the mobile home park, or more tenants into the mobile homes or units or whatever it is. I need some strong upside. So a 3 cap, we get so many mobile home parks with 3 caps right now. It's ridiculous. It's not even worth my time to explore. It's interesting to look at that. Hey, these 80 homes are $7 million. Not my park. I want to move on quickly. So be discerning on those types of things. Okay. Question number 12. Do I have a history of being too quick with my decisions or too slow? What has that cost me? What has it taught me? I love this. So if you've done some projects, have you just jumped into some things because, I've got 300,000, I want to keep it working, and this guy, he brought it to me and I think it's a good deal. And that's, we start the evaluation process. Sometimes people get a hole, their hole's getting burned, the money's burning a hole in their pocket. And it's just ridiculous. And it's not sound investing. I've been so guilty of that. And it's cost me so much time, so much money. I really urge you to ask that question because it's just not worth it. I don't care if it's your first deal, your 5th deal, your 50th deal. It's not worth it just because you have the money. 1031 exchanges, I understand that there's a sense of urgency. And if you're not getting, if you don't have 10 properties that are legitimately solid properties, before you close on that property, you're not marketing yourself enough to get out there and calling enough brokers and saying, look, I've got $1 million that I need a 1031 exchange into in 7 weeks. You've got to start identifying those properties before you even sell your property. You got to be Johnny on the spot because that's a legitimate time you need to really do it. But the only way you're going to really find out if this is the best property, is this truly the best investment, is by throwing enough marketing information out to people, brokers and other investors, and there are just a ton of different resources you can start using so that you have 50 projects that you're evaluating before you've even sold your property that you're going to 1031 exchange. That might be a little bit over somebody's head, but it's an important thing for us to remember. Don't get suckered into I found these 3 1031 exchange possibilities and I think I'll just take that one because it meets my it's close to me. It's not the reason why you should ever invest. Okay. Number 13, can I do this investment and lose all of my money without it affecting my lifestyle? How much can I comfortably lose that won't negatively impact my life cycle? If you've got $5 million as investable dollars, I think you might be able to comfortably lose $100,000. Warren Buffett is brilliant with this, and he's been saying it for decades. The first rule of investing is don't lose money. And the second rule of investing might be even more important, and that is refer back to rule number 1. And look, I've lost a ton of money. Maybe you've lost a ton of money or some money, but I'll tell you, that first $100,000 loss, that first 6-figure loss is brutal. And I hated going through it. But I'll tell you, that third one cost me much more angst because I'd learned so much on the first one. The third one, it was like, why didn't I learn the lesson? Why didn't I do a deeper dive with who I was partnered with, or the contract we had, or the location? There's only too many times you can lose that money and walk away from it unscathed without it really affecting your lifestyle. I urge you, with these questions and others, you're going to find out how to get rid of some of those bad things that you might not have ever encountered, but you may not ever need to encounter. Just like money doesn't need to be all yours to get into a project, other people's money. I say OPE, other people's experience, truly, truly helpful. And that's what I'm here to give you. Okay, so can I do this investment and lose all of my money without it affecting my lifestyle? You really need to explore that, because what happens if you lose it all? Will it affect your lifestyle? Okay, number 14, do I truly need to make this investment now, or can I wait, see some progress, and then invest? And let me give you an example of that. That is like somebody comes to you as a passive investment, a syndication. They've got 100 units on the apartment building, but some of the money they don't need for a year. And maybe they have a two-phase raise. And the first phase is we're raising $500,000. The second phase is we're going to raise another $300,000 to finish the roofs. And maybe that comes with some, certainly less risk, but also it provides much more clarity on how the business has been operated from the first month to the 12th month, when you're, potentially coming in with your 100,000, 200,000, whatever you feel comfortable investing, or whatever the minimum is. And you now have a provable, shown track record of how these new operators have turned this, multifamily complex around, or if they haven't turned it around. And so maybe that's another tool you can use to evaluate. Number 15, is there a plan in place for my incapacitation regarding my investment portfolio? Is there a plan in place for my incapacitation regarding my investment portfolio? Do you have somebody that's going to be able to come in? You got in a car wreck. You got, you ate blue-green algae and you got an amoeba. I don't know. And so how will that, how planning, the pre-planning for that will really affect what kind of things you invest in, okay? So is there a plan in place for my incapacitation regarding my investment portfolio? If not, and I do invest in this particular project, who will take over in my place? What if you're building 6 homes on 4 acres that you bought, and you're doing spec houses, and you're 3 months into it and you're in a car wreck and you can't put your brain power into this? Who's going to step into your place? Is it your business partner? Is it your spouse? Do they have the experience? Okay. How would that impact the investment if I'm not in the project anymore? My brain is just recovering. How is it going to affect my family? How's it going to affect my future? Question number 16 ties on to the same idea. Who can take over for me in this investment if I become ill or if I die? Who else is my successor heir to this investment portfolio? Do they have the skill? Do they have my best interests in mind, my family's best interests in mind? You need to find that person. You have to. It's critical. It's absolutely critical. Number 17, are there more experienced people than me in this investment? Or am I the most experienced? Am I leading this, or are they? Do they want or need my experience to help guide them? I don't necessarily think it's wrong if you're the lead if you have enough experience. I don't think it's a bad thing. I would say it's a great thing when you've done this enough and you've got a track record of success that shows you've been able to do this. I don't think it's wise to start off with $150,000 that you have cash on a fix and flip, and you've got a hard money loan at 11%, and you've never fixed and flipped a property before. Because, if you're going out doing all the work and you're coming back at night watching YouTube videos on fix and flip in order to gain the knowledge on how to lay tile or how to better caulk a bathtub or what kind of paint to use in the bathrooms versus the bedrooms. I mean, there's a whole host of things that are it's the minutia of getting a quality product done. And to learn it on YouTube at night, I don't think that's the best investment of your time. Certainly learning is, but if you can figure out a way to find more experienced people as a beginner, you're going to be better off. Follow their lead, question it sometimes, but make sure that when you're choosing that person, there's no way that they have anything but the highest level of integrity. How do you decipher that? That's another question. Okay. Number 18, how do we resolve conflict? So if you've got a partner, how do we resolve the conflict? What mechanisms are in place to resolve? And I think that's kind of an advanced question if you have a joint venture agreement, or if you have an operating agreement for your LLC, or if you have some other partnership agreement. I think that those things need to be ironed out in great detail, because if you are the inexperienced partner with all the money and somebody's the more experienced partner without the money, you need to have some controls in place so that they don't just spend your money, which has happened to me more than once, more than twice, and yes, more than 3 times. And the idea is we protect ourselves and we set the tone because we have the money. And I think it's not unwise to have an attorney draft an operating agreement and having a conversation saying, look, I need this to be as clear as a bell, because some attorneys will charge you $2,500 and they've got a boilerplate because it takes them 15 minutes. That's not what you need from an attorney. You need to say, look, we're going to spend 4 hours reviewing this. And you and I are going to sit down and we're going to say, what happens if this doesn't happen? What happens if they don't do this? How are the taxes planned for? What happens if they walk away from the project? Can they lose their membership interest? What if they don't show up for 3 weeks on the job? Can they lose their interest? I'm the one taking on all of the risk. How can I make sure that I'm not being onerous and putting all of the responsibility on them, but I am taking some of the responsibility, but I'm also putting it on them too. It can't all be on my shoulders so that they walk away and I finish the project and they still get profit. That's not fair. So you need to outline those types of things. Number 19, what if we need to remove someone from the operating agreement or from the joint venture agreement? Do our documents give clear removal replacement directions? Again, that's something you're going to want to sit down with an attorney, at least for the first few times on. Maybe you draft an operating agreement and you partner with somebody. They get, an increasing amount of membership ownership in that LLC as they complete the project. If you're coming in with all the capital, I would say, start off with a controlling interest, and that when they reach certain goals, that they then get some of that ownership to help their profitability. They're performing per the agreement, and they should have some more, the carrot versus the stick. Conversely, if they don't meet those particular goals, they lower their ownership equity. Something like that. You can do that in a joint venture agreement. You can structure it several different ways so that they have responsibility. Conversely to that, if you're the guy with the experience and you're working with a money person, somebody that's coming to the project and they want to have a little bit of a hands-on, but they have the most capital in, you want to say, look, I want to show you that I'm really super excited about this and I'm going to achieve these goals. And at that point, that's when I get more equity in the company. That's a way to structure that for you so that your performance is going to get better profitability. Again, you're also going to say, look, if you don't change the flooring, if the flooring's not done in week 7, then you don't, barring any sort of problems with the city, let's say, another disclaimer, that you then have the ability to, recapture some of that. If you don't achieve your goals, you don't get your equity, but you have a way to regain it on some other portion of it. Okay, I hope that makes sense. What happens if we need to remove somebody? It's spelled out in the operating agreement. It's spelled out in the joint venture agreement. If they don't perform, they lose, and that's on them. And you're crystal clear with them, both in verbal communication, but most importantly in writing. And I think that's a really important part. Number 20. Here we are. Will I need to take over control of the Let me start that one again. Number 20. Will I need to take control if the project begins to fail? How will that impact me, my family, my other investments? I've had to take over the project more times than I want, but I will take it over instantly if I have to. If I can, I'll take it over and I'll get it. It may not be as profitable as I've hoped, but at least I can control the property. And that, for me, is one of the most important things. Will I need to take over control if the property begins to fail? Yes, I will need to take it over. I may need to bring in somebody else to finish it, the actual operations of it, and I'm willing to go and do that. But that's how this whole thing really works out for me. How will it impact me? Well, I have less time to do certain other things. My family, I've got a dog, so maybe she doesn't get to go on a weekend trip with me because I got to sit here and talk and look at spreadsheets. Okay. My other investments, look, I'm doing my best to make sure that all of my properties are working, all the time, but sometimes there's something that happens and I need to dedicate more time to it. I have to make that happen. And I hope you guys feel the same way. You don't just let these things fall off to the wayside and somebody else is going to handle the problems. One of the things that I've learned is that control of a project is really of paramount importance to me. I've got investors, and if something happens to my partners on it and they decide that they don't want to participate anymore, that's on them. But I've got to still pay my investors. I've still got to finish the project. I still have to liquidate the project or whatever the exit strategy is. And I think that that's an important part of making sure that you're a high integrity person. I don't always promise that it's going to be pretty or that I'm going to meet the timeline or that I'm going to get as much, of the money back to them, in 6 months, but in a year it might take twice as long, but I'll get their money back. And that's, how I like to operate. You may want to operate differently, but I think with these 20 questions, if we really spend a lot of time really going through 3 of them, take 30 minutes, choose 3, focus on 3 and really brainstorm. How are these things going to affect your family, your finances, your investment portfolio, your available cash to invest, your available time to invest? You're going to be a much better investor than I ever was. And I have to say, even with all the stuff, even with all the drama and with all the bad faith actors that I've encountered, if I would have had these questions, I would have been able to really avoid some of these people and some of these problems. And I hope that with going through each of these questions, you have an opportunity to understand how I see it now. And I hope that you have an opportunity to really dive into them on your own for your own benefit. And I hope to hear from you on what are some of these questions that really stand out to you of benefit to you where you are right now. So I think that that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Let's jump into the next one later and send some answers to me. Send some more questions to me. I can't wait to hear. Thanks.